Today on Concordia News, still waiting for the results of the Concordia elections.
More unrest at UQAM.
And we speak to two students who learned what it's like to be homeless.
This is Concordia News with Anna Giampa and Julia McAvoy.
Good afternoon. The polls at Concordia are closed and students are anxiously waiting for the results of the CSU elections. Our reporter Dominique Jarichor is live on location at the downtown campus. Dominique, I understand it's been a challenge getting information about the elections.
That's right, Julien. In fact, our interview this morning with CSU President Keana Kashfi was cancelled. We've just been to the 7th floor of the hall building where people are barricaded in a room counting the ballots. They were supposed to have been finished by 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's no word on when they will be finished counting the ballots. But one thing's for sure, students are not impressed.
It's election time at Concordia University, and this is what students have to say.
I think it's bullshit, yes.
Just seems to be people playing like politics and making a lot of money and just stealing a lot of money.
I wish they did more parties and like more events. And
really the one that's closest related to the party that's been running for the past few years, called Change. I mean, how cynical is that?
But Lucas Soloway, a Vision Party candidate, is hoping students will have overcome their negative feelings and come out to vote.
I think it's really unfortunate because students pay money to be here, students want to learn, have fun, and I think the CSU should represent them. And in some ways it has. I'm not saying it's all good or all bad, but there have been too many problems.
Problems like lawsuits over $200,000 of missing funds, canceling the student health plan, and questionable actions at student council meetings. This political science professor thinks it all comes down to money.
Well, the students who are active in politics here, who are actively involved, take it much more seriously than the students, let's say, in the States, which is where I taught before. My guess is, I would assume that that's in part because they have much larger budgets, which affords them the opportunity to take it a lot more seriously and do more things.
High stakes for students who may have little or no experience in the political sphere.
Julien, the controversy continues today. We received confirmation from the Chief Electoral Officer that the Change team had hired a truck to advertise for them yesterday, which was during voting. Now that could disqualify them from the race, but we'll have to wait and see how things go. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Dominique. And at UQAM, there were protests earlier today where a group of social science students disrupted classes. Pamela Tolman brings us the story.
Thanks, Anna. Tensions here at UQAM have been running high as a second day of protests got underway this morning. At about 10:15, a group of about 12 students entered Dr. Sorrel Friedman's second language English class here just behind me. And these students are part of the social sciences department. They are basically protesting the lack of funding that they have been receiving in the past. They are accusing Dr. Friedman of conducting an illegal class, saying that she is not going according to strike mandate. And now I spoke to Dr. Friedman and as well as some of her students this morning. Here's what some of them who were involved had to say.
Probably about 45 minutes into the class, I would say 10 or 12 students basically burst into the classroom and began to hold a kind of assembly with the rest of the students.
Je suis contre la grève. Je suis vraiment pas d'accord avec leurs idéologies. Je comprends vraiment pas pourquoi tout se passe comme ça.
Mercredi, on a voté en Assemblée générale à la Fèche une grève. Dans le contexte actuel, il y a beaucoup de mouvements à l'UQAM. Les professeurs sont en grève, donc on a voulu joindre ce mouvement-là.
For now, the faculty remains on strike. A meeting will be held on Tuesday at the university to determine whether to extend the strike indefinitely. For Concordia News, I'm Pamela Toman.
Another demonstration also took place at UQAM yesterday afternoon. members of the Association pour une solidarité syndicale étudiante took to the streets to denounce the privatization of public services. The group says that the private sector deprives citizens of equal access to public services. UQAM's Teachers Union also participated in the protest.
Tasers have been the source of much controversy since Robert Jacansky's death at the Vancouver airport in October 2007. Today, Quebec's Minister Jacques Dupuis ordered the province's police departments to turn in their tasers for lab testing. As a result, 167 of the weapons will remain off the streets until they are checked.
On Wednesday, CBC announced that it will eliminate 800 jobs. CBC is scaling back its sports and news coverage and reducing the number of episodes for TV shows like Little Mosque on the Prairie and Being Erica. The scalebacks will save the corporation about $85 million a year. Our reporter Kavol Sheikh talked with Geeta Nakardi, who is still on CBC's payroll for now.
Geeta Nakardi is a relatively new addition to the CBC, but after only 3 years, it's become like a second home to her.
So today the CBC went into greater detail about what's going to be cut from the budget. As an employee, are you worried about your job?
I have no security. I mean, I have a contract till the end of June, but I mean, any animosity I might feel is not towards the CBC. I think they're really doing an amazing job at making the best of a bad situation. My beef is with a government that doesn't value public broadcasting.
Do you find the last government was more supportive of the CBC?
The impression that I have as a new Canadian, I've only been in this country for what, close to 6 years now, is that there's definitely certain support with the Liberals, the NDP, the Greens, whatever, and not as much support with the Conservatives. That's my personal opinion. This is not the CBC's opinion, okay?
CBC's budget cuts have forced Geeta to face facts. Even though she doesn't want to, she might have to work elsewhere.
Would I switch to a private broadcaster if I got a job offer? I mean, what am I going to say? If I get laid off at the CBC and I get an offer elsewhere so I can stay in television or stay doing something that I really believe in, sure I would. But would I always want to come back to the CBC? Absolutely. But if I can get an opportunity like that at the privates, absolutely.
In Montreal, I'm Kavol Sheikh.
CBC isn't the only organization affected by budget cuts. The recession is creating ripple effects at newspapers, TV, and radio stations. Dominique Jarry-Shore has more on how the future of journalism may be in jeopardy.
Could these newspapers be a relic from the past sooner than we think? Traditional media are grappling with a double whammy these days: a global recession and the popularity of the internet. The effects of layoffs and budget cuts are already being felt at Concordia University's journalism program, where Peter Downey is working hard finding internships for graduating students.
It's more difficult this year, and what I really notice about it is that there's a kind of unspoken apprehension with every location that I check with. Everybody's more hesitant, everybody's nervous, everybody is unsure of the future.
The pain is being felt at the local level as well. Last month, the Monitor became available online only. The paper had been serving NDG since 1926.
Printing costs, distribution costs, you know, they're just, they're not getting any better, they're just increasing.
With both big and small newspapers folding in the US and Canada, journalists are facing a challenge that could define their careers.
But most analysts agree the future lies with the internet. Steve Faggy has been following the situation in his popular media blog, Fagstein.
It's hard. It's really hard, especially now. Like, this is, if you're graduating this year, this is like the worst time to get into journalism.
Back at Concordia, Peter Downey worries about what this all means for the future.
A lot of the people that I generally contact and stay in touch with throughout the year, they're not there anymore. And it doesn't seem to me that they've been replaced by anyone. So there's, I mean, that's troubling on a lot of levels. I mean, one, it affects the internships that we can offer. But in a more general sense, I think by removing people with experience from newsrooms, it's going to make it harder to sell journalism and make it credible to the general public.
How it all plays out could mean less of these and more of this. Dominique Jarry-Shore, Concordia News, Montreal.
Habitat 67 was designated an historical monument today. Quebec Culture Minister Christine Saint-Pierre made the announcement at a press conference this morning. The residential complex was built for the 1967 Montreal Expo by Montreal architect Moshe Safdie. It is world-renowned for its unique architectural design.
The drama at the English Montreal School Board continues. Quebec's Department of Education announced yesterday that it will send lawyer Tom Nanchi to help solve some of the board's internal problems. The EMSB has been described as dysfunctional and non-cohesive by some of its members. The Education Department hopes that Nanchi will be able to promote a more cooperative and collaborative environment.
Citizens of Fargo, North Dakota are still wading through the annual rising of the Red River. This morning, the river rose to 40 feet, reaching record-level heights. These are the highest water levels since the flood of the century in 1897, and many people are worried. Meredith St. John is in studio to give us an update on the situation. So, Meredith, why has the river risen so dramatically?
Well, the Red River always rises at this time of year. North Dakota had an extremely cold and snowy winter, so when warm temperatures hit Fargo earlier this week, the already thawing snowbanks and streams ended up turning this into a full-blown flood. Hundreds have been evacuated from hospitals and their homes, but emergency workers are on the scene. They've been sandbagging around the clock to build up the city's dikes.
And what about our side of the border?
Well, the Red River flows north into Manitoba, but the 40-foot crest that's currently hitting North Dakota isn't expected to reach Canada for another week. Manitobans are stepping up their efforts as well. They've been sandbagging quite a bit, and they are bracing themselves for the arrival of the Red River as well.
Thanks, Meredith. The Canadian College of Physicians has suspended Lakeshore General Hospital's Dr. Gilles Bourdon. His medical license has been revoked for 2 months after evidence of his medical negligence was brought to light. Over the course of several years, the doctor failed to properly update files following the surgeries of close to 500 patients. He has been reprimanded for misconduct in the past for questionable surgeries and treatments. For months, economists have been telling us that we're in a recession. Everyone wants to know how bad it will get and how long it will last. Annabelle Blais reports from downtown Montreal to find out how local businesses are adapting to an uncertain future.
Alarm bells rang in September, warning us that we were entering in the worst recession in 80 years. For 6 months now, shopkeepers have to deal with unpredictable daily revenues. At La Chocolaterie Suisse on Crescent Street, Fabien Réau sells Swiss chocolate and clocks. Going through the economic crisis, that's something difficult, because we don't know the actual depth or length of it, says Réau. We cannot afford a day off if at the end of the month we want to be profitable. At the Montreal Chamber of Commerce, its president, Michel Leblanc, tries to be optimistic about the future of the economy despite no signs of improvement.
On average, a recession lasts 11 months. In the US, the recession has started more than a year ago. So we might be already moving out.
Many would like time to speed up to see the end of this crisis, but store owners cannot rely on prediction of experts and have to adjust to the reality with new strategies. Fabien Réau decided to take his business online to expand his market, but the salesman also has a secret weapon. Although the clocks bringing the most money, chocolates have been a safe bet in times of crisis. For us, it's not that bad because we are selling instant pleasure and people are looking for this, says Réau. When you spend $5 each time, it doesn't seem much and it gives you a little comfort. Could chocolate be recession-proof? Well, nowadays it seems to be safer to invest in a $10 box of chocolates rather than a $1,000 cuckoo's clock. And enjoying the simple pleasure of life can be even more important during hard times. A recession does not always mean poverty. It's rather about setting priorities. In Montreal, I'm Annabelle Blais.
A week ago, students in 17 schools across Canada braved the cold for the 5 Days for the Homeless campaign. Joining me in studio today are JMSB students Josh Redler and Hussein Damlaj. Tell me, Hussein, how tough was it to brave the cold for 5 days and 5 nights?
Well, the cold is definitely a factor. Whenever you're sleeping outside, you're out of your element, you're out of your zone of comfort. So you have no entertainment, you're far from what you consider home. And definitely the lack of food and not knowing when your next meal was not knowing, is it going to rain tonight? Is it going to be cold tonight? That was definitely a big factor in basically the misery we suffered. Not only misery, but the goodness, the whole warmth came for us from basically from the event, from the money we raised, and we also learned that other people cared, and that basically helped us.
Josh, you pioneered the event last year. What motivated you to organize this?
Well, just knowing that the money was going to a good cause to help kids on the street get back on their feet was really something that inspired me to get on the streets again one more time this year and raise more money for Dans la Rue so they can continue their services.
Did you achieve your goal?
We achieved our goal. We actually raised over $30,000, and what's great is people can donate all year long on our website at 5days.ca. So you can always go check it out. There's content there from the week and from last year and this year. So feel free to go in and enjoy what we have, and you can always write to us on the Contact Us page to let us know what you thought about it.
Great job. Keep it up, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
All of Quebec's film industry is coming together this Sunday night for the 11th Jutra Awards. If you didn't get a chance to see the nominated films, Radio-Canada kept you in mind. For the second year in a row, the festival Festival sur les Jutras is keeping you in the loop.
Forget the glitz, forget the glamour. The films from the Hollywood Hills are stepping out of the spotlight, and Quebec cinema is taking center stage. In preparation for the 11th annual Jutra Film Awards, Radio-Canada is screening the nominated films in theaters across the province, and organizers are thrilled.
The key with the event is just to trigger the interest of the public. It's just to tell them, see what you could go see all year long in your theaters. Well, check it out because it's worth it.
Getting a glimpse of Quebec's top films won't cost you much. The festival is free. And in these tough economic times, people aren't complaining. When I saw the ad, I thought it was a good opportunity. It's great that it's free, but I would have paid anyway.
I heard about it and I want to see for myself.
I felt like seeing a movie today. It's motivating since it's part of the Jutra Awards. And because it's free, it's great. Crowds have been flooding the theaters to see the nominated movies. Borderline, Ce qu'il faut pour vivre, C'est pas moi je le jure, and Maman est chez le coiffeur. All movies take place in Quebec and shed light on its culture.
So when you talk about movies in Quebec, it's part of their lives because they know every single actor or comedian that plays in them. It's part of our heritage, it's part of our cultures. It tells stories about us, which is very close to the people of Quebec's heart.
This year, Radio-Canada is expecting 10,000 moviegoers to check out the best of Quebec cinema. The festival has been drawing in crowds all week, and tonight should be no exception. Montrealers can discover the nominated films or see them again at Cinéma Quartier Latin or Cinéma Beaubien. Tonight's your last chance to catch the festival and get ready for the big show on Sunday night. In Montreal, I'm Julie Salimko.
Last week, the South by Southwest Music Festival wrapped up in Austin, Texas. Concordia reporter Paloma Friedman met up with one of the bands when they played in Montreal.
Despite their driving guitars, Australian duo Anne Horse are quietly trying to break into the North American music scene. So far, they're finding Canada not so different from down under.
We were saying that when we drove over the border, that you could feel the vibes were different. That makes us sound like hippies, hey? But, you know, like, different vibes. It's like Australia, but cold.
They were in Montreal to promote their debut album, Rearrange Beds.
Yes, you came back. It's a good album. There's a lot of shit albums out there, and this is a good one, so... no, I don't know, I mean, most people seem to be liking it, which is good.
Yeah, my mum likes it.
That's what the main importance is, yeah, Kate's mum.
Kate Cooper and Damon Cox worked together in a record store, where they met another duo, Canadian indie rockers Tegan and Sarah.
When we were asked to tour with them, we didn't even have plans to release the EP we'd recorded.
We just happened to give it to Tegan and Sarah, who were in Brisbane. Like a month later, they called us up and asked us to tour, which was crazy. I mean,
yeah.
Awesome. And it kind of all just snowballed from there.
Their song in a Mercedes commercial in Australia. Last week, a spot on David Letterman. later this month, a gig at the South by Southwest Music Festival in Austin, Texas, which has launched many rock bands to stardom.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully some good stuff comes out of it. We're just going to try and have fun.
And we get to catch up with a lot of friends too, so that'll be cool.
Ann Horse will be touring Canada and the U.S. through the end of April. Paloma Friedman reporting for Concordia News.
And finally in sports, the Canadiens defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning 3-2 in overtime last night. With more, here is Vincent Dintouche.
Thanks, Julien. For the first time since Bob Gainey took over, the Montreal Canadiens won 2 games in a row this week after defeating the Atlanta Thrashers and the Lightning of Tampa Bay. The Habs still needed one overtime to defeat one of the worst teams in the league, but the Koivu-Kovalev-Tonga line pulled out another great game. Tonga set up Kovalev for a beautiful goal in the first period, and Captain Koivu scored the winner in overtime. But the center of attention was once again Le Cavalier at the Bell Center. It is still uncertain whether we'll continue playing for the Lightning next year, and Habs fans are still hoping to see Le Cavalier wear the Canadiens jersey. In other results, New York lost against Atlanta in shootout, and Florida defeated the Flyers. With less than 10 games to play, the Montreal Canadiens are ranked number 9 in the Eastern Conference and would play the Boston Bruins if it stayed that way. For Concordia News, I'm Vincent Dintouche.
So that is all for us tonight. Anna, any plans for tonight?
Well, I think there's a couple of birthday parties we've been invited to.
Are you going to come?
I think so.
Oh, it's going to be a good night. For Concordia News, I'm Julian McAvoy.
And I'm Anna Giampa. Good evening.